is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Welcome into a Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton, as always, and we are so glad to have you on this overcast but perfect Tuesday, as it's decent outside and it's election day, so that just means late nights for me. But yeah, that's not unusual. Just pretend it's Friday.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you're not in a newsroom where they would be supplying free pizza.
Yeah, I'll be at the election commission tonight, and then once that's over, it'll probably be back at the house where I'll be, dealing with my own pizza, I guess.
There you go.
So sad. But hey, what a fun day, because Tuesdays are always fun. We've got Top 5 Tuesday and Chip Walters joining us. We are testing out a brand new style of Top 5 Tuesday. So if you're used to our Top 5s, we're going to do things a little bit differently today than we have been doing them in the past. Essentially, we're going to be drafting. And so you won't hear like when Mo and I had number ones, last week before, had the same number one. That won't happen anymore. We're gonna draft 5 rounds of our top 5, so should be a lot of fun. And what better way to do that than talk about draft busts? Just kind of correlates there. So we'll do a draft style of the draft busts, and then we'll ask you guys who had the best draft. We'll get to that on Twitter as well. As you can see there on the screen, follow us at ms_sports today. We had a lot going on yesterday in the world of college hoops, and we're going to talk about that. We've got some more college football to react to from over the weekend. We didn't get a chance to get to it all yesterday. And, of course, college football playoff ranking show is tonight. So we'll talk about where the Vols will end up, who's going to look in the top 4, what the top 10 is going to look like-ish. We may not get to all 10 today, and all that and more, but plenty to get to. Mo, what's up? What's going on with you today?
Just anticipating a trip into Nashville to pick up my iPhone 14, because apparently Cool Springs doesn't have it in black. So
a new iPhone. Look at you, man.
Yeah, well,
those videos on Friday nights are going to look really good now.
Well, hopefully, it gets back to the user at that point. But the phone will tell you when it's time, and it's time. So
it's Vader time.
Yeah, so we're gonna bite the bullet and go get another one. I'm not big on new phones, really, because they all have something new that I have to figure out, and I'm not very technologically inclined, so it's a tough transition there, but we'll try to get it figured out.
I understand. Especially back when I was an Android user before I moved here to Middle Tennessee, I'd used Android for like 8 years. I probably had one of the first. I think I had the Motorola G2 or whatever. It was one of the first phones that there were, and every year it seemed like Android or whatever phone you had a different way of answering the phone. And that was very confusing, because like Samsung, you would swipe up on the screen to answer, but like Motorola had kind of like what you see on iPhones, where you kind of, you slide across the screen, and it was just very confusing. So,
so what prompted you to go from Android to iPhone? Because most people are my daughter, for one, they are team Android, and they are dug in. I mean, you couldn't get them out. come hell or high water. So,
I would
or-
still prefer to have an Android, but
Mhm.
the ease and mode of conversation with mainly Sarah, who is an iPhone user, it makes it a little bit easier, the FaceTime aspect, et cetera, that sort of thing. And essentially, I wanted something that was, because at the time when I moved here and I got the iPhone, I actually had two phones. I had a phone, and the iPhone was mainly used just for work. And it was just really easy to kind of keep your calendar really, right there. Everything kind of synced up with what we were doing
Mhm.
in the company. So that was kind of the work phone. And
Mhm.
eventually I just phased out the old 533 phone number from the 205. And the poor guy named John in Hoover, somehow ended up with my phone number that I'd had for about 15 years.
Oh Lord.
And I felt really bad for him for about 2 or 3 years.
Because they gave the number back out.
Yeah, they gave the number out, which was not a very smart idea.
Mm.
But
not considering you had it for as long as you had, probably. But hey,
yeah,
not your problem.
it wasn't. But I knew that he was just getting call after call after call. Just and I, people who just always knew my number by heart that maybe didn't have it saved or whatever, probably calling the poor guy. I mean, I just felt bad for him. I really did. I
That's
was
rough.
like, oh, and I called him one day and I was like, John, I apologize.
You don't know me, but
but
you've
all of
probably
my
heard
friends.
of me. Yeah.
Perhaps you've heard of me.
Mm.
But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. But yeah, that's how I ended up on Team iPhone. I'd still prefer to have the Android, but again, with my wife having an iPhone, it's just an easier mode of communication.
It's for the best.
It is. It is. Oh, there you go. And as you hear the iPhone and Apple bleep there.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot to get to today, so we'll do it. But before we do that, we got to get to yesterday's results, today's schedule, all on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
In NBA action on Monday night, the Boston Celtics defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 109-106. Monday night NFL play, it was Baltimore defeating New Orleans 27-13. Men's basketball on Monday, MTSU with a 79-52 victory over Brescia. I think we might have mentioned that yesterday, but there it is again. Memphis comes to Memorial Gym, gets out with a 76-67 win over Vanderbilt. Tennessee with a 75-43 win over Tennessee Tech. North Carolina State downs Austin P 99-50. Belmont with a 70-69 win over Ohio as Cade Tyson introduced himself to the Bruin faithful. Tennessee State with an 85-75 win over Fisk. And in junior college play, Gadsden State out of Alabama down Ball State 80-76. Chargers of Columbia State with an 88-49 win over Trevecca's junior varsity team.
In women's basketball action, we did mention this yesterday, but it happened yesterday, so we'll give it to you again. TCU 69-62 over Lipscomb, while Vanderbilt gets a 82-71 win at Western Kentucky. Austin P downed Cumberland 81-35, while Mercer edged Middle Tennessee State 76-75. Tennessee State with an 85-61 win over Fisk in junior college play. Vol State with an 86-71 win over Gadsden State of Alabama, and Meridian downed Columbia State 81-36. Tonight's schedule includes some NHL action as the Nashville Predators are at the Kraken of Seattle. That's a 9 p.m. puck drop, and you can see it nationally on TNT.
In Maction tonight, Eastern Michigan, is at Akron. That's a 6 o'clock kickoff on CBS Sports Network. On ESPN2, you've got Ohio University at Miami of Ohio. Again, that's 6:30 on the Deuce. And on ESPN at 7, Ball State is at Toledo. Also in women's basketball action, wow, this is a good one for November 8th. Tennessee goes to Ohio State. That's a 7:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. or on the Fox Sports app. And I personally will be finding one of those. It's a heck of a ball game to kick things off. So looking forward to it. And that is your rundown.
Unfortunately, Mo, I'll be a little busy at 7:30 tonight, but I'll be keeping an ear on it somewhere.
See, that's why sometimes working in the toy department, as folks refer to sports, is a good thing. And tonight is one of those. So
Yeah, no
I'll
question.
be thinking about you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Top story today comes from the prep ranks as Knoxville Catholic's Corey Mobbs was or has resigned from his position.
Yeah, has resigned has left, is no longer. Yeah, I'm trying to find the article on Main Street Preps, and I'm not seeing it. I see the tweet over here though, but yeah, Corey Mobbs, who took over a couple of years ago after Steve Matthews' departure at Knoxville Catholic, has resigned. They went 8-12 in his 2 seasons. 5-5 in 2021, 3-7 this past year, and a first round loss to Christian Brothers, as Donovan Stewart reports on MainStreetPreps.com. So came up here out of Georgia, had gone 58-22 in 7 seasons at Lanier, with 6 straight Class 6A playoff appearances and 2 region titles. So couldn't quite replicate that success up here for whatever reason. But I thought, Chris, I don't know if you've read this article or not, but I thought this was a really interesting quote from Catholic Athletics Director Jason Surlis. Coach Mobbs is a great man to have around our students as a teacher, and worked tirelessly over the last 2 years leading our football program. We are very grateful for his time and efforts in both those roles.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting quote there, because it doesn't.
I don't think Corey Mobbs should use Jason Surlis as a reference.
Well, I mean, it's a weird quote, right? I mean, we're grateful for his time and efforts in both of these roles, but he essentially said he's a great man to have around our students, but not necessarily around our football program.
Boom.
And I understand that, like, to a degree. Knox Catholic has a pretty long history of being very competitive.
They do have a long history of being very competitive, though I will tell you that the majority of that long history of being competitive was in Division I.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of my thought was, are they suffering some of the same fate that kind of Columbia Academy is, where, I don't know what their thought process is on, student aid and financial aid, et cetera, and that sort of thing. And so I can see how maybe, that can be
So
an issue.
basically what you're saying is you're not sure what their commitment is.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe Coach Mobbs didn't really know what he was getting himself into.
I think maybe he didn't know what he was getting himself into. I think maybe they are in a bit of transition because they've not been in D2 all that long, I don't think.
Right. And
now the basketball program certainly seems to have figured some things out. Football takes a few more athletes, maybe taking a little bit more time, but yeah, I think that you have to wonder, particularly in Division II 3A, where you've got McCallie and Baylor and BA and Ensworth and MBA and those folks. You know, it's a tough climb.
It's certainly not easy. Yeah, it's certainly not easy. And next year you're going to have Lipscomb Academy.
Or Lipscomb Academy is going to have them.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to deal with them if you're a Knox Catholic. So, and you know, D2 AAA only has the 2 East and West, and so it's not easy either way. And
no,
good luck to Catholic on that. Now, that's not the only part of this top story, though.
And no, it's been an interesting day in East Tennessee high school football, as Stephen Hargis with the Chattanooga Times Free Press has an article up on their website, timesfreepress.com. Mr. Football semifinalist Boo Carter no longer enrolled at Chattanooga Christian School. Now, you just mentioned Chattanooga Central last week as a favorite, if not the favorite, to win D2AA as you peruse the bracket and peruse their schedule and that kind of thing. Well, apparently Boo Carter was suspended for their playoff opener last Friday and then has subsequently left school.
That's a pretty big blow to my championship contender. I mean, that was certainly not what I expected.
No, you did not see that one coming at all. I mean, this is a kid who I think he's a junior. Again, he's a Mr. Football semifinalist. And I believe he is down to considering Tennessee, LSU, and Michigan. So.
Well, and man, boy, you'd love to have some background on that, wouldn't you? On the suspensions, on everything, especially if you're a recruiter.
Oh, I think if you're a recruiter, you have to have some background on that. I mean, a kid leaving school in the midst of a playoff run, you know, suspended for the playoff opener, that kind of thing. But I guess this would be a developing story.
It certainly sounds that way, and it certainly looks like FRA is probably feeling a little bit better about that matchup on Friday without having to deal with the Mr. Football semifinalist.
No doubt. No doubt.
There you go. Let's take a break. First break of the day. When we come back, we'll talk a little college hoops, so stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back right after these messages. Stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes!
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back into Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Get a little college hoops action going here because Belmont started the season with an absolute storm, literally, as they stormed the court after a 1-point win over Ohio last night at Curb Events Center. And we have video of that buzzer beater on this 1.1 seconds left in the second half. Sideline inbounds. Here we go.
Now, hold up just a second, Chris, because this was after Ohio had taken this 2-point lead on a 3-pointer of their own, and the clock initially showed 0.8, so apparently they put some time back. But go ahead.
Finds Tyson for the win!
The O's have it.
They're going to go to the monitor. I don't know how they're going to. Finds Tyson for the win!
It's a pretty good shot.
Relief, man. Check out the kid getting wiped out right there.
Yeah. It's like, hey, man, let me up.
Right.
But how about that? How about that win for Belmont to open the season at home against Ohio? It's kind of important win just because, out of conference stuff like that, especially against other schools that are perceived to be, same around the same level, mid-major wise. It's important. So, big win for the Brewers.
I thought it was interesting that a freshman took that shot. I mean, I'm not real familiar with Belmont's personnel this time around, but that's a pretty big shot.
Well, let's hear from him. Let's hear from him. Let's hear what he had to say, Justin. I think you have that pulled up just yet. I know he's getting there, but there we go.
So I just let it go.
What does it mean to have that kind of confidence from your head coach to put the ball in your hands with a second and 1.1 seconds left?
It means a whole lot. I love my coach. I love my teammates. We put in a bunch of hard work for this moment and stuff like this. So, yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Cade. All right, I'm going to bring in head coach Casey Alexander here. What is it about Cade that made you believe to put the ball in his hands with the game on the line?
Well, two things. One, it was his man that made the three on the previous possession, and I knew that from him because he's a tough kid. And he's shown that he wants that ball like that since the minute he got here.
You told me that those 2 wins in the preseason really told you guys that you could do this. It gave you that confidence. What does this win do for your confidence going forward?
Well, it should do nothing but help. So early, got a long way to go. A lot to learn from a win or a loss. It's crazy how the game comes down to that right there. I give our guys a lot of credit. I love that team.
What do you learn from this first game?
Well, I thought we were really resilient. We got down 15-6. We didn't really have any rhythm, but we made some plays. We got a nice lead. They came back and tied it. Then we made some plays to finish the first half. Held the lead the whole second half, but then that was a brutal blow when he made that shot. He's a great shooter. But we finished it, and that's why coaches say it's 40 minutes and people like you don't like that. It's a cliche.
Dang, coach.
Gotta love Casey.
Casey's just out here throwing haymakers at media on day one. I like it. Come on, coach. We'll spar. We'll spar.
Yeah.
We'll probably end up sparring with him at some point and get some of that coach speak, Mo.
Oh, without question. Yeah, but Tyson,
you have your answer.
Yeah, 6'7" freshman out of North Carolina. Has an older brother apparently who plays at Clemson, and was also considering Charlotte, Mercer, Wilmington, Western Carolina, Coastal, and Radford before he committed last September to Belmont. And one game in, I'd say Casey Alexander's happy to have him. So
No question. So there you go. That was a big win for Belmont. And, especially after they lost a lot from last year's team. So the Bruins kind of starting over. And I guess that had a lot to do with why there was a freshman on the floor and it worked out for them.
starting over and in more ways than one, as they are headed to the Missouri Valley this year. So
Right. It's
a lot of transition going on for Bruins basketball. Speaking of which, we are on tap to have Bart Brooks on later this week.
We are. We'll have him on Thursday ahead of their hosting top 10 ranked Louisville's women coming in here on Sunday to the Curb Event Center. So that should be good.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun getting him on. We saw them fall in the opening round of the NCAAs up at UT last year, and while the Belmont men may have taken some hits from a graduation standpoint, a lot of those young ladies are back. So they're going to be fun to watch.
Mo, moving on to the biggest game, according to Dickie V, last night across the country, Memphis with a 9-point win at Memorial over Vanderbilt, 76-67. But if you look at these statistics, man, you just think, how in the world did Vanderbilt lose this game? They shot 40% from the 3-point line, hit 12 of 30, while Memphis hit just 5 of 19. Yeah. But Memphis shot 90%, 89.5% from free throw line, 17 of 19 from the charity stripe.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I mean,
and when they're shooting that, you can't keep sending them. And apparently Vanderbilt did.
There you go. Both teams had 13 turnovers. The rebound battle went to the Tigers. And if the rebound battle goes, of course, that's typically how basketball games go. Vanderbilt 9 of 15 from the free throw line, just 60%. So that doesn't help you either.
Well, but, and only getting there 15 times.
Yeah. I think, but it seems to have been a pretty clean game between the two teams. Tyron Lawrence and Miles Stute had good games for Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt kind of was by committee, whereas DeAndre Williams was the key. He and Kendrick Davis for Memphis and Penny Hardaway. Big win for Memphis to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, when you can go on, anytime you can go into Memorial Gym and get a win, I think, regardless of what the thoughts are regarding Vanderbilt, that's a tough place to go win. And so, for Penny and his guys, that's a big one right there.
Think so. I don't know that I necessarily expected Vanderbilt to win this game. I think Memphis, obviously, at this current time in their in the world of college basketball, they are the better program. Obviously, a second round matchup and nearly took down Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament last year. So that being said, Jerry Stackhouse is kind of, I think he just got a contract extension, and it's kind of important for him to have a good season this year, I would think.
You would think so. I mean, they made a nice run in the NIT last year, but they are a lot of folks around here remember when basketball was the sport that Vanderbilt hung its hat on.
Sure.
Before baseball surged the way it has, basketball was what it was all about at Vanderbilt, and they have not been in that position for quite some time. And I think a lot of folks really need them to get back to, the upper echelon of the SEC. I mean, I think they're going to be greedy as far as that goes. I don't think they just want to be competitive. I think they want to be good. And the inconsistency that they've shown over the last while doesn't lend itself to that. So, I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that this is a make or break year for Jerry Stackhouse. Like you said, he just got a contract extension. So it would seem they're kind of hitched to him for a bit and he to them. But I think folks want to see more than they've seen.
I think they kind of have to.
Trying to look. I mean,
It's tough. It's tough when when Vanderbilt really needs to be, especially with the capital project that they're currently going through. They need to improve. They need to be better than the NIT than they were last year, and maybe make that run into the NCAA tournament. And obviously, these type of losses don't help. I mean, you're at home.
No, not at home in particular. If that's in the FedEx Forum, maybe it looks a little bit better, but at home in particular, I think there's a little bit more weight on it. Stack in 19 and 20, his first year, Vanderbilt won 11 and 21, 9 and 16 in the well, I guess this is the COVID year, 2021 coming out of, and then 19 and 17 this past year with the NIT quarterfinal berth. Have not been in the top 10 of the SEC in either of those 3 years. Last year, they finished 7 and 11 in SEC play, which was good for 11th place. And that was an improvement. So
that's tough, man. And, they really thought they were going to be a lot better last year with the return of Scottie Pippen and that sort of thing. It just didn't work out. So Vanderbilt's going to have they've got a pretty tough hill to climb after this loss. They'll need to do some damage in the SEC. And speaking of doing damage in the SEC, a couple of local products did some last night. Brandon Miller looked every bit of all SEC second team. Of course, let's remember who they were playing, but I mean, you still gotta give credit where credit is due, and Longwood or not, Brandon Miller looked really good. He let's see here. Goodness gracious. Sounds like there's a big fly over there.
Oh goodness.
Like what in the heck? But first, I think he had the first points of the game. Missed a jumper, got his own board and put it back up. Had 13 rebounds, 14 points, led the team along with Rylan Griffin with 14 points. But he was over
a double in your college debut.
Yep. But 0 for 6 from the 3-point line. Of course, Alabama as a team was just 3 of 28.
Oh.
And still scored 75 points.
The most important shot is the next one, huh?
They were fogging them up. They were making miss and didn't care. But yeah, I thought that was a big win or a big debut for Brandon. Played 32 minutes, which was the most of anybody on the team. Clearly, Nate Oates has faith in the young man from Cane Ridge.
Well, I mean, as McDonald's All-American, you don't know how long you're going to have him, so you might as well
get all you can out of him.
Yeah,
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It does. It makes a lot of sense. And also, you retweeted this. Carly Weathers had a pretty darn good night too last night for the Crimson Tide women, Lady Crimson. I don't know.
I think they're just the Crimson Tide.
Blah, that's terrible.
Yeah, well,
figure something out.
I think they have. Yeah, I mean, hand down, man down. You know, Carla Weathers can knock down a three, and she can knock them down contested, and she can certainly knock them down uncontested. And that one tweet was, I think that was her first three in the crimson and white. I don't know what she finished with. I think she had double figures, but
15 points on, get this, 4 of 5 field goals, 3 of 4 from the 3-point line, and 4 for 4 from the free throw line. She shot about 90% last night.
That's what you call efficient.
Yeah, no question there.
Yeah, I mean
points,
that'll
4 steals.
That'll get you in the good graces of the coaching staff pretty quick right there.
No, she had 4 steals defensively as well, and if not for Brittany Davis, who was 8 of 11 from the floor and 7 of 10 from the 3-point line.
They were letting it fly too, huh?
They didn't listen. That's a pretty good night. That's a pretty good night. Well,
going
done.
back to Vanderbilt for just a second, Chris. I'm looking at their schedule here. They've got Southern Miss coming in on Friday, the 11th. Then they go to Temple next week. They go out to the West Coast to play St. Mary's, and then either Fresno State or Washington in the Wooden Legacy. Later play at VCU. There you have Pitt coming in here in early December. They play North Carolina State in Chicago in mid-December. This is a schedule that, if they're not careful, they could really be behind the 8 ball before they get into SEC play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
there's no question there. You got to. I mean, you're going to have to win some games that you haven't won recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if you're Vanderbilt, in order to be successful. So, good luck to them. Had a couple other things I wanted to talk about, but we're up against a break, so let's go ahead and take a break and talk a little college football on the other side of it, because we didn't get to all of it yesterday. So I want to get to some more college football reaction on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. Y'all stick around. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee sports editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Welcome back in. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. And
you all right?
No, a wasp just flew directly into my mouse.
I was wondering what that was.
I mean, like, I saw it coming and couldn't do anything about it.
Squirrels outside, wasps inside. You got all of nature going on this afternoon.
Yeah, just call me Snow White. Goodness gracious. I see where the wasp is hanging out. So next break we may have. I just killed one during that break. I thought I had it all, but apparently I did not.
Clearly not.
Whew. Goodness gracious. I'm gonna keep my hand off my mouse for a minute. Most watched college football games of week 10.
Surprise, 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 as Jim Neighbors would say.
13.1 million people watch Tennessee and Georgia.
That's a bunch.
To my knowledge, it's the most watched game of the season.
Well, I mean, what would have been more watched?
Alabama, Tennessee had 11 million, and it was the most watched at the time.
Right.
So
I'm a little surprised that Tennessee, Georgia nearly doubled Alabama, LSU on Saturday.
For reference, Ohio State, Penn State last week was the most watched game at 8.27 million. 5 million more people.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yes. 5 million more. Sorry, I was thinking about Alabama. The 11 million from Alabama. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then Alabama, LSU being number 2 at 8 or 7.5. That's right there with it. And then the next closest is Ohio State Northwestern at 4.76, and that doesn't get that if Ohio State isn't struggling. I mean, people were watching that to see if Ohio State lost.
Yeah, people were trying to tune in to a train wreck right there, basically. A little surprised at Clemson and Clemson and Notre Dame at 3.2 for a blowout, but it is Notre Dame. So,
well, yeah, it's Notre Dame, so you're going to get that, but it probably would have been. And then you probably had a few people tuning in to make sure that Clemson was actually losing. They may have heard about it and wanted to make sure it was real. It's pretty interesting, man. That's nuts to me.
And when I initially saw that, I thought back to the battle that friend of the show, Wes Rucker, was fighting on Twitter 2 or 3 weeks ago when he said college football is better when Tennessee is good, and the uprising that created. But it I think 13.1 million kind of indicates that there might be something to what he was saying there.
Well, not just that, but Tennessee has led college football's TV ratings 3 times now. And they were second to just Alabama, Texas in week 2.
So there you go.
So, I mean, it's pretty obvious, if you ask me, that Tennessee being Tennessee and being, good it may not be great for college football, but it sure is good for the pocketbooks of the folks in charge of TV. They ain't mad about it. I can tell you that.
No, I don't think they are.
So anyway, that was not really what I wanted to get into. I just thought that was interesting. Lance Leipold, if there's a coach of the year award, he better get all of them. Kansas Jayhawks are now bowl eligible. The first time in more than a decade, about a decade and a half, actually. 2009, the last time they went bowling.
So you would vote for Leipold over Heupel?
I would.
Okay.
I think it's harder to go bowling at Kansas than it is
than to get into national championship contention at Tennessee.
And I know that's crazy to talk about because neither of them have been in either of those conversations in a long time. But yes, I think Leipold and Heupel are definitely the only 2 options.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who else you consider. Sonny Dykes at TCU?
That could be a good one. But yeah, and I mean, it's his first year. Sure. But again,
I mean, I don't I'm just it's Kansas. I mean, I think he takes a back seat to Leopold, but I think he's in the conversation. I think.
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the line forms behind Mr. Jayhawk.
Speaking of coaches of the year, how about players of the year in the Heisman race? Has Bo Nix played his way into the Heisman talk? Well, he's definitely played into the talk. Is he in the race?
Probably. I mean, Young won it last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's back. He's in it. Hooker, this past weekend notwithstanding, he's in it. Obviously, C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. And you got to have somebody from the West Coast. And I don't think anybody is playing at a higher level than Nix right now. So, I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't be in it.
Yeah.
Which folks about 3.5, 4 hours south of here really love.
No. I mean, I think it's kind of what I was saying earlier this year. And I thought, you go back and if you search Bo Nix on my Twitter, you're gonna see a couple of things. You're gonna see me saying Bo Nix is not as bad as you think he is while talking to Auburn fans, and then you're gonna see me after the Georgia game going, okay, maybe Bo Nix is as bad as they thought he was. But knowing what we know now, but based on what the award is nowadays, he's probably a Heisman finalist, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think he gets an invite.
So
now, what happens from there, I don't know, but I think he's there.
So, looking over topics here, Jeff Scott out at South Florida.
Yeah,
I think it's probably a little premature on their part, but South Florida is being South Florida apparently, because that's you get about 3 years at South Florida to do your damage, and then you gotta or get off the pot.
Yeah, is there an value of that football program?
100%
with its decision makers.
100%.
What are they in? Are they in the American?
They are in the American, yes.
Okay, and they're staying in the American, right? They're not going to the Big 12, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. They're in a tough situation because I think they want to be viewed like a Central Florida, and I'm not sure they're there.
They were, 10 years ago? But that's when they had who was the quarterback that was so good?
At South Florida, who did they have?
They had a couple of good years, the early 2000s. But I mean, this is not a program that is just consistently among the best football programs in Florida. I mean, this is there. It just kind of seems crazy to me. Let's see here.
BJ Daniels.
BJ Daniels was one of them. He was really good for them. But trying to think, during that Jim Leavitt era, It was they don't have any names, but they did. You know, they had the upset in 05 of Louisville. They beat West Virginia like 3 years in a row. They beat Auburn one year, Kansas went in 08, and Florida State in 09. They were 7-12 against top 25 teams under Jim Leavitt.
Jim Leavitt, who went down there after having some success at Wake Forest, I think it was. Isn't that where he came from?
He was a co-defensive coordinator at Kansas State. He may have gone to Wake Forest after
South Florida.
South Florida. He was fired after an investigation revealed that during halftime of a game against Louisville, he grabbed a player by the shoulder pads and struck him twice across the face, according to Wikipedia. But yeah, so
yeah, no, he was never at Wake. I'm confusing him with somebody else, obviously. No, South Florida was actually his first head coaching gig. So
yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I can't think of anybody, but there were a couple of guys that were, you know, they were really good for a little while, but nothing special. They're certainly not among the best openings right now.
No, they are a firm 9th out of 9, I would say.
But
they're in Florida.
They're in Tampa, which is not South Florida by any geographical measure. Unless South Florida is anything south of the Panhandle, they're not in South Florida.
Yeah, and I never really understood that one. I don't understand that.
There are like 5 other schools that could have been South Florida.
Explain your Florida geography to me. That Tampa is South Florida. I need to understand this. Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. But there's a name out there that has been thrown around for some of these gigs, and South Florida would be an interesting landing point for him. Dan Mullen. Think about it.
He's been in Florida. It's a recognizable name. Can he adjust his recruiting the way he would need to? You know, because the kids that he went after at Florida, he's not gonna be able to go after at South Florida.
Probably not. But I mean, I think he's been at enough places that he, you know, where recruiting is.
I wonder if he wants to.
I think there are a couple of places that he would go. I think he would probably take a job like Georgia Tech if offered, but crap, Brent Key may get that job.
He may get that job
at this point. I mean, crap.
I think they're favored. They're favored against Miami this weekend, and I don't know, is that game in Miami?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
no, it's in Atlanta. My bad. But yeah, Georgia Tech is favored against that Miami team this weekend with the interim coach at the top.
If Brent Key doesn't get that job, Brent Key will be a coach next year, because there is one job that would take him in a heartbeat, and he would love to be in it, I believe. UAB.
Does he have ties?
He's a Hewitt Trustful graduate. So he's from the Birmingham area. Just makes sense. And so there's that. Couple of other names of note. Dan Mullen is the first one on this list from Athlon Sports, and I didn't see that until just now. Jeff Lebby, Manny Diaz, Scott Frost, Willie Simmons out of Florida A&M, Kendall Briles, etc. Do you think Jamie Chad would take a job in the athletic in the in the American Athletic Conference?
I'm sorry.
Do you think Kendall Briles would? I'm not kidding. Jamie Chadwell would take a job. Hold on, my internet's not great here. Apparently,
do I think Jamie Chadwell would take a job in the American?
Yeah.
Why? Is that a step up from where he is?
The Sun Belt feels like it is on their level, right?
I feel like that's a lateral move, personally.
It might be a step down. The Sun Belt may be the sixth most powerful conference.
I don't know why. I don't know why you take that.
I don't know either. Anyway, we've got just a few minutes left, and we have gone way off the rails with that one. But tonight, college football playoff rankings, preview, predictions. What are your thoughts? Where does Tennessee end up?
I think Tennessee ends up fifth.
I said I think they end up fourth. If they're fourth tonight, pack your bags, buy your tickets.
Yeah. I mean,
because they're getting in.
Because they're not going to do anything else that would cause them to fall. I mean, somebody's going to have to jump. I think TCU is fourth. It may not necessarily be logical given what took place last week. It may not necessarily be logical when you compare schedules, but I think TCU has to be rewarded for being undefeated, regardless of who they beat.
I think the committee views this Big 12 as a G5 conference.
I can understand why they would.
Which is why I don't think they're going to be. I think TCU is going to be sixth.
I can see that. I can see that. I can understand that approach.
I mean, we know it's going to be Georgia 1.
And I think it's going to be Michigan, Ohio State. Well, Michigan and Ohio State in the next two spots. I think it'll probably be Ohio State 2, Michigan 3.
Okay, I agree with you there. You've got TCU at 4. I've got Tennessee at 4. Who do you have at 5?
I've got Tennessee at 5.
You got Tennessee at 5, I mean. Who do you have at 5? I mean, I'm sorry, at 6. Is it LSU?
I think it almost has to be LSU. Again, I've not processed it that far down.
Because I mean, and then after that, it's the Pac-12. It's UCLA, USC, Oregon. Which one of those is which UCLA was 11 last week, so I don't think they're going to move up that far. But is Oregon going to be 7th? Is Oregon going to be 7th?
Probably. Now, where's Alabama going to be? 10?
Probably.
I mean, I don't think it matters because there's no way for them to play their way back.
And I think that's why they got to be 10. And
because
then you've got a 10-11 matchup between Alabama and Ole Miss.
And Ole Miss, yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. A lot of people are expecting Ole Miss to win this ball game Saturday. I'm not one of them, but a lot of people are expecting Ole Miss to win this ball game. how much of a bump does that give Ole Miss?
They just
Give it-
swap spots.
Yeah.
Unless somebody ahead of them loses.
But there's no way for them to really get into that mix because they've already lost to LSU, right?
Yep. And that's their only loss, by the way.
But it's a pretty big one.
Seems to be. Yeah, I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you want Alabama to win that game. You need Alabama to stay in the top 10. Because if Oregon were to beat USC, they would also have 2 top 10 wins, kind of. They would have UCLA and USC.
But they would have that huge loss to Georgia.
Right now, Oregon, Tennessee seems to be the arguing. Yeah. If Oregon wins the Pac-12 and their only blemish is that week 1 loss to Georgia, do they get in over Tennessee because they have a Pac-12 championship with a win over USC, a win over UCLA, who almost lost to South Alabama, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And, to me, the Pac-12 hasn't really proven itself over. They have not proven themselves enough in the last 5 years to earn the love they're getting this year.
I think a lot of people in college football are desirous of the Pac-12 having a national championship contender, regardless of whether anybody actually shows themselves to be that on the field or not.
I would agree. And I said USC would be the best chance that they have for 2 reasons. One, USC would not have a loss to Georgia,
right?
40 something points. 46-3 was the final.
Correct.
They wouldn't have a 40+ loss to Georgia on their resume, and they would have the X factor in that it's Lincoln Riley.
Of course,
and Caleb Williams and
now
yes, we've seen those people in the college football playoff before. Yes, I understand.
We've seen that movie. We know how it ends,
and we do. But I think the name USC, the fact that Lincoln Riley's there, I think, the LA market, for whatever that means, would play a factor, I think. So I think USC has the best chance to get in. And if the Pac-12 wants one, USC needs to be the horse they ride.
Yeah.
So their only loss being very close on the road at Utah at night, Pac-12 after dark kind of stuff. I think you can forgive that more than you can forgive 46-3.
Even in week 1?
Even in week 1. So anyway, Chip Walters is standing by. So let's take a break here, a normal break, Justin, if you don't mind, and we'll get to Chip right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Y'all stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones and Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in. Main Street Sports Day presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo Patton, Chris Yao here with you on this Top 5 Tuesday, and we are getting ready. But before we get to our Top 5 today, we bring in the voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters, to talk a little Blue Raider football, Blue Raider hoops, all kinds of great stuff. Chip, how are you?
Well, doing okay. It's been a busy time since the last time we spoke, but just a lot going on.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Some would say that. So let's hope that's true.
And some of that busy has been of your own accord, Chip, because I know last Thursday you were among those at the 50-year-old Murphy Center for the beginning of the 50-year celebration of Murphy Center with my former classmate, Winona Judd. So
that's right. You all did graduate together, didn't you?
We did.
And actually, was she at the reunion? Is she coming?
She was not at the reunion. We had it
okay.
About 6 or 8 weeks ago. She was not there. I think she was at an event. So.
Understand.
Yeah, she's a little busy.
I tell you, she can still belt it. And, the thing, to me, the most fun part about that last Thursday was just being in the building and seeing another big event in there, a big show like that. And because, it was pretty star-studded if that is your type of groove, with Martina McBride, Ashley McBride, Kelsey Ballerini, Little Big Town, Brandy Carlisle, who was fantastic. So it was a really good show, and they shot it for TV. It'll be on CMT and I think Paramount Plus coming up in March of next year. So I'll be interested to take a look at that then and see how it looks on TV compared to what it looked like live. But I'm telling you, the staging, the lighting, sound, everything was terrific.
Now, there have not been a lot of concerts held at Murphy Center here of late, have there?
No, not really. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, of history on that. Mm-hmm. Murphy Center was going strong as a host. There were really no venues in Nashville other than Municipal Auditorium. Starwood came along. It kind of killed everything from May to October. Then Bridgestone Arena was built, or the Somay Center, or whatever it was called at the time. And that took care of, a lot of the fall, winter, early spring events and concerts. And also the fact that when that was going on, at the time, Middle couldn't sell alcohol at events. Now that's available. And so that was part of it. It seems, like, and it's kind of a tweener venue. It's not the Ryman. It's not a 4,000 seat venue. it's not a 20,000 seat venue, but there's room for what it does. Like the other night, there were 8,000. They sold 8,000 tickets the way they configured the arena the other night. And there have been sporadic shows, but nothing like what we all remember back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That's kind of unfortunate, I think, because I think a lot of people would come to shows in Murfreesboro these days that wouldn't necessarily go to Bridgetown.
Well, and that may be true. And my hope, my personal hope is that that the buzz that came around and came out of having Winona and friends there the other night would be because, there were literally hundreds of posts of friends of mine who were there, and they all led back to, man, it sure was nice to see a show back in that building. Hopefully there's more. Everyone, hopefully there's more. Hopefully this is a new beginning to all of that. And, it was, I'm on the committee, the Murphy Center 50-year committee. And one of the goals we had all summer in our meetings was to have another big show back on campus. And there may still be another one that we're working on in the spring, but the way this came about with CBS, CMT, Paramount, they kind of came with the idea from Winona that she wanted to recreate the show 31 years ago that she and her mom did when it was the last time that she was on stage with her mother. And that was 31 years ago. And she wanted to recreate that in the same venue. And it sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. And that was one of those times because it kind of fell just right. And there was a lot of buzz, a lot of, outstanding publicity about it. And it just worked out really well.
Nothing wrong with being lucky.
No.
Blue Raiders.
We could have taken some of that on Saturday.
I was trying to get there. You beat me to it.
Right.
Ruston was not good to the Blue Raiders this weekend.
Well, in Middle was not good to Middle this weekend. And, you commit 5 turnovers, you have 4 in one quarter and a blocked punt in one quarter, and you lose your starting quarterback to what appears to be concussion-like symptoms. Then it was a tough road to climb. But the thing was, even after all that, Middle was down 13 with a whole quarter to play, and it's like, okay, if you can just make a couple of things happen, and you were in a position to win the game, and just didn't work out that way. All credit to Louisiana Tech. They got their quarterback back. Texas Tech transfer. They've got Trey Harris and Smoke Harris, no relation, 2 outstanding receivers, and they did a good job. And they're we've seen defensive lines really get after Middle's quarterback here the last 2 or 3 games, and I think that's people are seeing that others are having success with that. So that's one thing that's got to be shored up with Charlotte coming in this week.
Interesting. This, when you went into this week, you thought, man, Middle really needs to get this win as far as bowl eligibility is concerned. And obviously it's still out there, but now I'm going to be difficult. Can you hear me?
Well, you froze up there for a second, but you're back. Yeah, you froze up for a second, but you're back.
Bowl eligibility gets a little more difficult after that one.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Your margin of error gets a little less every week, and you face. Injuries are becoming an issue. We mentioned Cunningham was out. Jalen Lane got hurt. You've got 2 running backs out. We don't know what their status, if they're going to be back. Isaiah Gathings, wide receiver, was out last week. So Charlotte, you kind of figure them out. Okay, 2 weeks ago, after they fire Will Healy, they score 50 plus in a win at Rice. Then they come back last week against Western and give up 50 some odd. So it'll be interesting to see which Charlotte team shows up in Murfreesboro. And I think this middle team feels like they still have, postseason aspirations and still have that within their own grasp. So it's going to be up to them to make it happen. And they've got 2 straight home games here, and if they could handle business in those, then you have a road game at FIU. Still, there's a lot of meat still on the bone there.
Chip Walters, the voice of the Blue Raiders, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chip, as you mentioned, back-to-back home games over the next 2 weeks with Charlotte and Florida Atlantic, but things are kind of warming up inside as well on campus.
Yep, absolutely.
Men opened with a win over Brescia. I guess that was a matinee yesterday.
It was Education Day. There were nearly 5,000 screaming elementary school students. So the pitch of the cheering was a little bit higher yesterday, and I'm telling you, and it's funny. The kids will tell you that, because they bus them in from all over the county. There were kids from 27 different schools there yesterday, and they bus them in, and so they're there early during warm-ups and stuff. Well, you know how elementary school kids are. They're like a bunch of ducks. One of them does something, all the rest of them do something. Well, middle's going through the layup line or the dunk line or whatever you want to call it. Well, one guy dunks it, and the reaction from the kids, it just explodes. So the next guy dunks it, and the next guy dunks it. So it just became this cacophony of kids during warm-ups, much less during the game. But, they got locked in during the game. They knew what was going on. They knew when to cheer, when not to cheer. They all had a big time, and it was on the women's team started this and have done a great job with it. The men's team, this was the biggest elementary crowd that they've had for this, and it was a ton of fun, and everybody got into the act. The walk-ons played. It was just a lot of fun for everybody. Middle returns 11 of their 13 scholarship guys from a year ago, and 3 new ones that all looked pretty good yesterday. So this is going to be a fun team to watch.
I imagine it was fun for everybody except your sound engineer.
Well, that would be me. And for basketball, I'm the Lone Ranger there on that. So, you just don't need that extra crowd mic as much on a day like that.
Well, I was watching actually watching it on Twitter, Chip, and so the first foul that was called, you couldn't even hear the whistle.
Oh, I know. Exactly. And I'll tell you,
it
buddy,
was loud.
And of course, when the opponent shoots free throws, they put up the, get loud or whatever. One of the guys here in my office, he was at the game, and he texted me and said, "Hey, on that last free throw, the noise meter on my phone registered 108 decibels." So
my goodness. That's incredible.
But
you need to do that when you have a big game coming, a big team coming in. Just put all those kids at one end, at one of the end lines, and go for it.
That's right. But Brescia's an interesting team, and they're going to be really good. They're NAIA, one of the few schools that has a female coach for a men's team, and she does a great job with them, and they play their tails off. For her. She does a really, really good job. But now Middle steps up in class a bit, has to go to Winthrop on Saturday. And so that'll be a big game there. The Raiders got Winthrop a year ago in Murfreesboro, and this is the payback game in that home and home.
Meanwhile, the women played at Mercer yesterday and lost 76-75. And,
tough one, because they were down 19 early in the third quarter. Fought back, got the lead, and with 5 seconds to play, and then somehow Mercer brought the ball in, took a shot, got a rebound, took another shot, and it went in and was counted. and Mercer got the win. So that was a tough pill to swallow last night there. But the Lady Raiders will also have another tough one on the road. I expect them to bounce back strong. They just didn't play a very good first half, and they will head to Southern Illinois, and they will play in Carbondale this Saturday as well.
Chip Walters, voice of the Blue Raiders,
joining us here. Chris, you
there
there?
you are. I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sorry,
No, that's okay. I was just getting ready to take Chip out. Chip, thank you for spending a spotty Tuesday with us today.
Well, not a problem, but a couple of things. Saturday, it is the Middle started the Salute to Veterans at football games. This will be the 40th annual Salute to Veterans. And any veteran who's out there watching, show up for the pregame picnic, and you get free tickets to the game. And it will also be food truck Saturday at the football game. There will be 6 food trucks inside the stadium for that as well. So invite everybody to come on over, have a big time.
Sounds good, Chip. We will see you next Tuesday. Appreciate you as always.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, guys.
Top 5 Tuesday. When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stay with us.
This holiday season, the largest lantern event in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. After sunset, come see more than 1,000 Chinese lanterns. All new designs including mythical beasts, a fantastical North Pole village, even a dragon soaring over your head. Welcome back to Zoo Illumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Welcome back into this Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yao, Mo Patton. Justin, you there?
10-4, copy
He
that.
is. What's going on? All right. Well, we start try out. We're going to try this out. A new way of doing Top 5 Tuesday. We're going to draft, which means we'll start at the top with our number 1s and go down to number 5s. But obviously, value at the lower picks is going to make a difference here in the poll that we put up after this, where we'll ask you guys who had the best draft of the day. So I don't know how we're going to start. We're just going to do a lottery here.
I have on the fly, I made a little 6-second video for our intro. I didn't get it obviously in time for the intro, but should I go ahead and play it?
You think you should? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
I've never seen it because I made it during the show. So
oh gosh, here we go. This should be. There were only 4 sports there, but I like it.
Right.
We need a 5th one right in the middle.
Yeah, I was thinking of, for some reason I was drawing a blank, which is hilarious because this is a sports show. It's like, all right, I had hockey, football, and baseball. It's like, why can I not think of one other sport?
Basketball and soccer. Those are the main 5. Go with those. It is Top 5 Tuesday, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. They have 2 great locations, one in Columbia, one in Franklin, and you can find them on Instagram at Steel Athletes or at steelathletes.com, STEEL athletes.com. All right. I'll tell you what, we're going to let age before beauty and let Mo go first.
Ooh, it's a trash talk. All right.
That's okay. That's all right. Because you're not going to like this, because I think my age is going to kind of put me over the top in this particular top 5, because my number 1 pick is a guy that a lot of people thought should have been the number 1 pick in the 1998 NFL draft.
Who's that?
Ryan Leaf.
Oh yeah, he's yep. I saw a documentary on him.
Yeah. Folks thought that he should have gone ahead of Peyton Manning. That's Hall of Famer Peyton Manning instead of convict Ryan Leaf. So go figure. That's my number one.
Where do you go to college at?
Washington State led them to the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go next, Justin. We'll get. I promise you'll get your chance to go number one overall at some point. I've got Jamarcus Russell.
He's on my honorable mention.
So,
all right, that's not a bad pick.
Number one.
It's not Ryan Leaf, but that's not a bad pick.
Am I now on the clock?
You are.
All right, word. So I'm going to go with Henry Ruggs.
Oh man, that's
my number one.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, because I mean, he didn't really play bad.
He didn't bust, but he busted.
Right.
Yeah.
And he could have really helped them out this year. That's for sure.
That's a good one.
Showing my age a little bit. Greg Oden. Chris, you still there? Chris is not. Are you there?
Yeah.
Greg Oden is my number two.
Well, I hate you. I hope you fall off a cliff because he was going to be my second round pick, but that's okay. I will go Achilles Smith.
Cool name though.
Yeah, cool name. Not a great NFL quarterback.
Right.
We've talked a lot about Oregon in this show, so Achilles Smith is a good pick. Who's your number two, Justin?
So this one's a little personal for me, but it is still a big bust, I believe, in a lot of people's eyes. Trent Richardson. I had him on my fantasy team that year. He joined the Indianapolis Colts and he ran for a cup of coffee and never ever ball again.
Not a second round guy. Not a second round guy.
He was so good in college, but then I forgot that their Alabama's O-line that year was like ridiculous. They're just giving them the holes.
All right, so is it my number three then?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna stay with the Trailblazers and go with the guy who was picked ahead of Michael Jordan.
Sam Bowie.
Sam Bowie.
Poor guy. Get picked above Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I have a bit of a theme here, but you guys have kind of taken all of my outside football stuff. I'm going Joey Harrington.
He's on my list.
Speaking of Oregon.
You're right. Oregon quarterbacks. Yeah.
Give me all of them.
Okay. All right. Justin?
I'm going to go. My number three is based off of just comparing how they were in college to how they were in the NFL. Tim Tebow, man. What a disappointment.
He was a guy without a position, I think, at the NFL level.
He was.
Yeah. But in college, if you would have told somebody while he was going through his run in college, this guy's going to be not great in the NFL, no one would have they would be like, you're an idiot.
I think people did not realize, he was a great college quarterback.
Right.
But what he did clearly didn't translate. So, okay. My number four, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna Brian Taylor. The number one pick of the New York Yankees in 1991 out of the North Carolina high school ranks and was supposed to be the next big thing, never got above AA.
Yep. That's tough.
That is tough.
That's a good one. I
feel like it's so much tougher to make it in the MLB than it is. Well, I mean, as in like the tiers you have to go.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And it's harder to be a bust at the pro level because of what you have to go through. So that's why I have no baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Mine are all football.
But
that was my only one.
I'm gonna go. I got two basketball players. I'm gonna go with Darko Milicic.
Who? Say again.
Darko Milicic.
Number one overall pick in 2003, and number two overall pick. But dude was supposed to be the next big thing and barely played 10 minutes over the next 10 years.
Man, that's tough.
Justin, your number four?
My number four is Panda, Isaiah Wilson.
He's definitely a bust.
Yeah.
That one's probably not going to get too many votes just because it is really
Although
specific.
it might get more votes because of who
Oh,
it
that's
is.
true.
Right.
That's probably really good value too.
There's some recency bias there too. So yeah, as opposed to my offensive lineman, who was supposed to be the best offensive line prospect in the history of professional football, when Green Bay took him number 2 overall in the 1989 draft out of Michigan State, Tony Mandarich.
Oh, lineman number 2 overall. That would get so hyped.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to go with Michael Jordan's biggest bust of his career, Kwame Brown.
I almost put him on my list.
That was a terrible. I mean, come on, man, that poor guy.
He got it too from Michael Jordan. He was relentless. I think I was on his The Last Dance documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was pretty brutal.
So, your final pick. This is your chance to Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, so this is the least right out of the 5. This is the one that, not could go either way, but isn't as bad as the others. But Jake Locker.
He was almost on my list.
I just gotta, not to end with 2 Titans, but
that's sellable.
He just was always hurt. And I mean, I'm a strong believer when he was in, he was good though. He was great, but just wouldn't stay in.
Yeah, I hear you.
One guy that didn't get mentioned that I would have thought might, but again, it's been a while. Heath Schuler.
Oh yeah, he's on my honorable mention. Honorable mention.
Yeah, I didn't want to kind of go there, but yeah, he's out. Todd Marinovich was on my list.
It's not bad.
I had the Boz on my honorable,
but Max Brown. I didn't do this because I don't think anybody would know who he is, but I think Max Brown may be the greatest bust of all time. He beat out Derrick Henry for the Gatorade Player of the Year and went as a quarterback to like Clemson or South Carolina and never got on the field.
Oh wow. I remember the name, but I can't remember.
Josh Rosen.
Literally never got on the field. Like he was terrible. And yet beat out Derrick Henry for Gatorade Player of the Year after Henry ran for like 2,500 yards.
Sam Darnold also was terrible.
Well, he's still in the league too, poor guy. But
poor guy.
There you go. That's that's it. That's Top 5 Tuesday, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. And I'll post a poll, then I'll have everybody's draft in a comment under that, so you guys can pick who had the best draft on Twitter. So check it out. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Follow us, MS_Sports Day. That's where you can vote on the poll. Mo, tomorrow is Heather Williams.
It is. And man, I don't think we're going to be able to get through it without talking about Sunday night, but it is what it is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
She'll be able to gloat just a little bit, but not much because, well, she probably didn't feel so good during that one.
She's going to be decked out in Chiefs stuff.
She had a few uncomfortable moments, I would think, Sunday night.
Didn't we all?
We'll see what she has to say. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 2:00 right here on Main Street Media, Main Street Media TV. We'll see you then.